The brain, the gut, the heart, and the nervous system are being shown to be the predictors of our health. If having real health is of interest to you, please listen to learn more, and welcome to the Brain Gut Connection podcast. Your host, Dave Bredhauer, will guide you through how everything inside us is connected, from our brain to our heart to our gut, how they all communicate, and how important your immune system is to this entire process. The Brain Gut Connection podcast. Let us get right into today's episode.
It's time for a quick gut check, literally. Have you ever wondered if there's a direct line from your brain to your gut? Spoiler alert, there is. And we've got all of the inside scoop waiting for you in the Brain Gut Connection newsletter. Every month, we dive deep into the stuff no one else is talking about, or maybe they just don't have the guts to. We're covering the real deal behind what's happening in that brain-gut highway, unpacking the science, the myths, and the little tricks that can make you feel a whole lot better. You'll find answers to questions like, is my gut messing with my mood? Or can what I eat last night really affect my focus today? Spoiler alert, again, it can. So if you're ready to keep your brain and gut in harmony and maybe discover why they argue sometimes, head on over to www.braingutconnect.com/subscribe to sign up for the Brain Gut Connection newsletter. Your brain, your gut, and trust me on this, your whole body will thank you. Go on, give your gut a break. Welcome to the Brain Gut Connection podcast with your host, Dave Bredhauer. In this exciting episode, we are joined by Georges Cordoba, a wellness expert from Qualar Vita, a company focused on enhancing health through the power of nutrition and gut health. I hope I pronounced that right, Georges. Together, we'll explore the vital link between gut health and mental well-being, discussing how small lifestyle changes can create big impacts on your body and mind. Tune in to learn actionable insights that could transform your health and vitality. Welcome, Georges. I'm honored to have you as my guest on today's show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure, man. So let's kick it off here. So can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey to your own health wellness, and then
Sure.
how you expanded that into a coaching practice?
Okay, sure. And just to make a quick correction, is Quale Vita, not Quale R. It's Quale Vita, Qule. So that means quality of life. Quale Vita. It's a link. It's a Latin phrase for quality of life. But yeah, in terms of my journey, I at the time that 3 weeks after my mother passed of cancer, I was diagnosed with a disease, and I must say that I feared this disease since I was 4 years old. On my side, of my mother's side of the family, which it's Greek, my Greek side of the family, pretty much everyone. If I count, when I see my family landscape from my mom's side, I feel like I would be doomed. My grandfather died of cancer, colon cancer. Then his brother died of colon cancer. My an aunt died of colon cancer. My uncle died of cancer as well, but it was in this case lung cancer. My mother as well, and a few other relatives. So I basically grew up fearing the disease, and if you know the mind, basically, I was just in a way subconsciously waiting for it to happen to me. I had not even thought about this, but it did happen. And so I was diagnosed with malignant melanoma, and based on where they found the lesion, which was on top of my skull here, they really, thank God, they really start moving really quick, because melanoma is a very aggressive form of cancer, probably the most aggressive, even more than pancreas. So that's where my journey started. I was lucky that within days I had this, and for many reasons that I discuss in my book, but I was lucky that they were able to remove that first lesion. And then my whole journey of 10 years fighting this disease, 10 surgeries, begun. I had my first a couple of one sentinel biopsy, which starts. They put something on your brain on the top, right close to where they had the surgery, and the whole thing is that this liquid would either drain to my left or to my right, and it actually drained. It showed that it drained more to my right. So now they had suspicions, and they would be like on the look to see if I had any lymph nodes that got hard or so forth. But at the end of the day, they started there. So, but in my skull, within 3 weeks, it came back. They had to really get in there. But by that time, they had and identify a couple of, with a biopsy, a couple of lymph nodes behind my ear that were positive. So they decided to do an extract, and they took 23 lymph nodes from my right side of my neck, and there was three lymph nodes that they could not get to, and without asking anyone, my surgeon oncologist decided to remove a muscle in my neck to get into these three nodes that were the only 3 of the 23 that they were positive. So from one side, they told me, oh, you're not going to be able to serve again and play tennis like you did before because you're missing that muscle. And they also kind of like damaged the nerve by my shoulder. So even today when I'm shaving, I just feel this tickling in my right cheek. So that was my third surgery. 4 months later, they started throwing different chemos and stuff. Melanoma was not really that well known at the time. And so I started with interferon. They thought it worked for melanoma patients. A guy that had, I guess they found out because it's a drug for hepatitis, but the guy had melanoma and the melanoma went away. So it's trial and error. Medicine that's trial and error. And you are the guinea pig, I would have to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let me interrupt you for a minute, Georgia. So you were diagnosed 10 years ago?
No, I was diagnosed in 2002, but I fought the disease for 10 years until 2012.
So for 22 years, you were diagnosed, and then for 10 years you had the surgeries, etc. So what were you doing prior to the diagnosis? What was your lifestyle like? Were you healthy? Were you living a good life, or were you abusing
Yeah.
your body?
Well, it was both, depending on what you're saying, the good life. But I was very healthy. I'm a competitor tennis player. I played NCAA Division I tennis here in the States. I'm from Venezuela originally, but I came with a full scholarship to play tennis, and obviously got my engineering degree through that venue. But at the time, I was in Miami. I was thriving in my tech career. I was already a director in technology. Later, I became a CTO. My 5 young kids. We would go camping, vacationing. My wife also doing very well in her career. And but one thing that happened. It was like 2 years before I was diagnosed. I just saw my mom really kind of like she suffered a lot. I believe she made that happen because she was a heavy smoker like her brother, and they both died of lung cancer. But the emotional clutter that built on me, and then later now as a nutritionist, health coach, and so forth, I realized that all diseases are emotional. So I believe that was one point. The other one was my type A personality, man. I was just all over the place. I wanted to be the best director. I wanted to be the best dad, the best Christian, the best surfer and tennis player. So I did not stop. I was always going. I was doing my MBA, and I was coaching my kids in soccer and I managed that plus my career, and then the other 4 kids. So it was just I was living a pretty I didn't feel stressed, but I just didn't stop. And it also was like a message. I could not believe it when I got the diagnosis. First, I thought, well, my goodness, I was definitely the next one. I was fearing I was going to be the next one in my family, but something happened to me where within, I don't know, I couldn't mourn my mother, but within 2 weeks, I said, you know what? No, I'm going to be the first family member that survives this thing. And I ended up having the toughest one, melanoma. And in year 8, he went to my brain completely, because my last 2 surgeries, by the way, 11 and 12, were in my left glute muscle. Imagine, this thing is so unpredictable. It goes all over the place because it gets into your lymphatic system, and so it could go anywhere. But all in all, I just fought the disease. I was very fortunate that I had many tumors that they could be removed. So I had 10 surgeries, and 4 of them were in my brain, 4 craniotomies and 2 gamma knives. And but I always said, man, this doesn't make sense. I'm blessed with 5 kids, and now this. I'm a good person. Yeah, I partied and stuff, but normal, not like I was crazy. So I just said, you know what? No. And I started to see this cancer as my toughest opponent. So I prepared, like if I was going to prepare for, let's say you and I were going to play against each other finals, I would really study you, playing your previous matches, and then I would get, the right coaching in terms of, and even people that would be on my side. I just prepared myself through the 8 years. But after that first craniotomy, which was from ear to ear in my front lobe, and they gave me this chemo, which, by the way, it was in capsules, and $1,000 each capsule. And that was on year 8. Financially, I was really, forget my CTO life. I mean, it was crazy. We had to tap into 401ks, college funds for the kids, and it was survival mode. It really made a huge change in our lives, and in also my professional life. But at the end of the day, like I said, when you really have an intention and you put it to action, I'm a person of faith, and I had always, I was certain that I would not go at this time. I had too much stuff to do, and thank God when I made that on year 8, I decided after in the beginning of the second cycle of these capsules, I decided it was just really. I believed it was killing me, man. I just felt so bad. And I told my wife, you know what? I'm going to meditate the rest of the week. I'm not going to take this anymore. No, you're crazy, whatever. No, I'm going to meditate because I think I'm going to just drop this stuff, this conventional crap, and I'm just going to go natural. So I made this decision. I against doctors in my family, my daughter, she's a young lady now, she'll be 30, but the youngest, her godparents are both physicians, and one is a surgeon. And they were trying to talk me into, no, keep going, you're doing okay. And I said, look, doing okay? I'm going 8 years on this, surgery, treatment, remission, recurrence, so this is not working for me. So I made that decision. I went to a naturopath, and I was still sort of in the fence, but on the fence, but talking to this guy, when I decided that I would go natural, Dave, it's almost like the universe, like God started to conspire in order to, for me to heal. And many things happened to me, angels that I call, people that I had no idea that would step forward to help us financially, okay, family and stuff. But it was just amazing, the stuff that started happening. And because of my, let's say, looking in my visualization training with tennis, and I learned how to meditate and pray in silence, that stuff was key. In this time that I decided to go natural, I had told, the first one I told was my wife, and then obviously my oncologist, who, bless his heart, he said, "Are you sure, Georges? You sure you want to stop?" And I said, "Yeah, I really am sure, but I would appreciate if you continue to do follow-ups on me, just to make sure that I'm progressing." So yeah, and so I spent the last 4 years after that. I had 2 more craniotomies and the two surgeries in my left gluteus, deep in my left gluteus, and but basically I knew by myself that it was just leftover stuff. It's not like it's the mindset is so key. But I have to say that there are many things. I'm a holistic health coach for a reason. I work the mind, the emotions, the body, and the spirituality. On the body side, which is when I went to this naturopath, we really discussed a good deal of gut health, and also the power of having a pH balance. In other words, because we could talk about that on the gut balance, but everything that he said to me was just music to my ears. And I thought, wow, yeah, I am definitely stopping all this chemo and radio and all this stuff, nonsense, and go this way. When I made go ahead.
So if I may, so you were battling the cancer for 8 years?
10.
Or 10 years total, but 6 years in, you decided to go natural? And
Yeah,
then
almost on the 8th year.
8th year. Okay, so you had a couple more surgeries to remove, but you were walking down a natural path at that point in time.
Yes.
So
yes.
what was the what did you do that was so drastically different from what you were doing before, aside from getting off the chemo?
Well, first of all, and this guy put me on. Oh, by the way, he had a non-FDA approved scan that he got from, I think it was Sweden or Germany, and it was like basically it's all external, non-invasive. He put some cables on me and did a scan, and I could see my inside on a screen. That screen, they was almost like if it was the 4th of July. It was just sparkling on light, and that is inflammation. He was saying, "Man, you're so acidic, obviously with the chemo and all this stuff, and that's why you feel you're dying, and you're an athlete, you've been holding on pretty good, but I'm glad you came." And so he explained, right away, he says, "We're gonna do a 21-day reset, a detox with probiotics and all juicing and stuff that he gave me." He gave me some pads also that I would put on my feet for the first 4 days at night. And when I woke up in the morning, especially the first 2 days, and that stuff was like one of my kids had just pooped on a diaper. That's the crap that I had inside. And so I did that for a few days. I got better. I started feeling so good. In the beginning, the first 5 days, it was headaches. I had even some shakes. I was just detoxing, but then when I passed that little, that phase, man, I started feeling better than ever. And people would even ask me, what the heck, what are you doing? And I explained, people, what, you stopped chemo and all that? Yeah. So they thought I was crazy, everybody. So thought I was crazy. Just like when, and then obviously later on, when I decided to go from a CTO to the health and wellness, everybody, are you crazy? But no, I use my intuition. When you are in a, let's say rest and digest mode, when you can manage that in the midst of a storm, I call it my steeped mountain, you get some good discernment. You make decisions. You gaining your power from within to say, forget everybody else. I'm not doing. They have nothing to do with. Oh, have faith, George. Oh, go, great. Yeah, thank you. Or they would try to without knowing, they would transmit their energy, their fear energy of cancer. Oh, how you doing, George? And so I had to really. Dave, I had to really prepare myself every time I step out of the door in my house to just let people know that I was doing great. And I kept seeing myself just like a tennis match, being the winner, beating the odds.
Oh, okay. So you've transformed yourself. The naturopath helped you to detox. Start a discussion, pH balance with you. So what else did you do to move past the cancer and into your new career? What was the motivating factor?
Life, man, my kids, they were very, very, very small. I had a lot. I always, I always say I don't fear death. I fear leaving without doing the stuff that I was supposed to do in my lifetime, my purpose. And but I had to really, in the beginning, even going natural, I was still having some issues in my stomach. I mean, I was taking venom for about almost 8 years, and so it took a while. We did another 21 days. We took a break, 21 days detox, and after that, I stayed 90% plant-based, juicing, etc. But I still have my eggs and some fish. I was just really, really thin, even though I'm a thin person. I mean, I was like 130 pounds, and so, but also at that time, that's the physical component of the table. I told you before. My program is like a table. It's a metaphor. One of the legs is your physical body. The other one is your emotional body. The other one is your mindset, and the fourth one is your spirituality. I made sure I try to reach a balance with the other stuff, and found out that the better I felt physically, the more I felt like my digestion was going great, and I didn't have this stomach aches that I just had constantly. I had to drink ginger candy, because after every chemo, man, I mean, talk about the gut brain connection. But I started getting better and better, and then I started to wonder, why do I get recurrences? What's going on here? And so I dig, as you said, when you seek, you shall find. And I found out that you will continue to have a patient with cancer will continue to have recurrences unless they pass, because they haven't found, and the oncologist is going to do that, the root cause of why they got sick. And the root cause for me was emotional. It was the whole theme of forgiveness, forgiving others, being forgiven, forgiving myself. I really worked on that. I humbled myself. And even though maybe the person that hurt me did not even remember, I went. And there were one or two that had passed already, but I just did some exercises, just with surrogates. We worked on forgiving these individuals. But not only that, asking for forgiveness was also very key. And little by little, I started to take all this weight out of my soul. And man, it started to get doing better. My oncologist used to say, "Man, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." You know.
Well, let's talk about the quality vita. I apologize for transposing the R and the E.
It's okay.
How did you explain to us what that is, and how did you get into it?
Yeah. You know, in my book, I say that when I look back at my survival experience, obviously taking a leap of faith and going natural, I say that for me, this survival experience was a blessing because God gave me the chance to sing the song I was born to sing, which is really helping people. So that was my second leap of faith. I started, playing with the idea. Well, I had made a bad investment, and it's never the right time to make a decision in many cases. Never buying a house, whatever, having a kid. If you look for the right time, you'll never have it. So I made a decision to go in the health and wellness and becoming a health coach. But because of my background in consulting and so far, I wanted to start with a company name and a mission and a vision. And so my wife and I, was a biologist. Well, by heart, we're both engineer and biologists, but she kind of jumped ship with me when at the right time. In her case, we said, well, you better continue to go the way you're doing until I get, stabilize in my new career. So we both sat down on a Saturday and started to look about what was the reason we wanted to help people on how to do it. And so we came up with this name, Quality of Life. And so at one point, somebody had told me, man, look for a name in English and look at it, or Spanish, which is my first language, and then check it out in the Latin language, which is where everything comes from. So Quale Vita is two words. Quale is quality, and vita, quality of life. And really our mission is to help people transform their health and vitality to live in wellness and purpose. With my clients, I say, well, when you heal, because it's always positive, are you going to be the same person, or are you going to, and most everyone say, no, I don't want to be the next, the same person, but what would I do? I say, well, it usually is aligned with your talents, but find your purpose, and then you will not ever be complaining about your job because you're doing what you love to do. So yeah.
So let's talk about. You mentioned, get back to pH balance.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that tie into the Quality Vita approach?
Well, that's a great question, by the way. It ties to it because before I made that decision to jump ship, all this stuff was coming to me. I told you that the universe conspired, and I was making note of all this stuff. The first thing that happened out of all that stuff is I wrote a book. But at that point, I already had the name of the company. And so, but because of my healing journey being a holistic journey, I had to work with my mind, train it to be positive, evade fear. I had to work with our emotions. I really look at my spirituality and also obviously my body. Then, the things that I learned with my body, the things that I learned with my emotions and how all that played a part for my healing. Only 4%, by the way, which I actually discarded that statistic of melanoma people with mets in the brain survive. And I remember my buddy, tennis player, and who's my daughter's godfather. I invited him home before the kids came from school. I said, look, now that I had the diagnosis of the mets in the brain, come home, please. I'll have a couple beers for you. We'll have a beer, and then we'll just get into the New England Journal of Medicine and let me know exactly now who my opponent is. I have the mets in my brain now. 8 tumors, by the way, and 2 of them not operable. But, anyway, he starts reading. He's also like me, parents that migrated to America, in this case to Venezuela in his case from Italy. And but we grew up in the same club playing tennis. He's 6'4", and the guy starts reading and he starts shedding some tears. And I go, "What's wrong, Steve?" "Stefano." And he goes, "Let me read it." And so he gets up, I sit down, and we were in at home's dining room. And so I start reading the stuff, and it did say, once a melanoma hits the brain, you have about 3 to 4 to 6 months and a 4% chance of surviving. So I read that, and I look up to him. I stood up, he's taller than me, and I said, "Well, I want you to tell me, why can I be one of those 4? And he gave me a hug and said, "You see, that's why you got it, because if I would have got what you have, I would die of fear, man."
Yeah.
But basically, what the reason I incorporated all this stuff was, first of all, and I failed to tell you this, back in college, playing NCAA tennis, I did a minor in nutrition. It was that time where some of the main pros, the better players in the world, were writing books about eating to win. So I did a minor in nutrition. I never got to finish up. So I had some of that in me, and I applied all this stuff with faith, that it was, faith and resilience, because this is no time to, let's say, New Year's resolution with in March everybody give up. True strength, man, is keeping it up when everybody would understand that you can give up. I never did that, man.
So I have a background in nutrition, a small one, and I left that, I guess, the old way of thinking, if you will, when I met the dean of the school. The head dietitian, I heard something grunting as it was coming down the hall. She walked into the room, and she was so grossly overweight that she made grunting sounds as she walked. And I thought, she's supposed to be the dietitian. She's supposed to know how to eat, right? And so
Yeah.
I dropped the minor and went off and did my own study. And again, when I was diagnosed what I was diagnosed with, I had been eating what I thought was the right diet, because it was the standard American diet, right? The old food pyramid, etc. And now I've learned that all of the acronyms out there, the AMA, the
Oh,
American
yeah.
Cancer Society,
GMO.
if you eat their diets, they're going to end up with their disease,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So what did you change in your diet from the nutrition background you had?
Well, like I said, first of all, I cleaned up myself, and then I made it a point that every 3 months I will do a 21 reset.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I did that for about 3 years
Wow.
until I was, yeah. And now what I teach my clients, the first Monday of every month, we do a 10-day reset. So they get used to, understand that no matter how good we're eating and we're putting in our mouth, there's too many components external to us, and also our stress and stuff. I tell them, look, as a nutritionist, I can tell you that 25% is what you eat, and 75% is who you are when you're eating. And that's where, we mess up. We missed with this brain gut connection that people don't understand. They don't even know about it. And, all of a sudden we're thinking we're eating great, even with the right balanced pH plate. And we'll talk about that in a second. And, they don't understand, man, I'm not losing weight. I don't feel good. Well, you're eating in 10 minutes. Why don't you take 20 minutes to eat? Yeah.
Guilty myself. I'm a bit of a vacuum when it comes to eating my meals.
Gotta slow down, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said when you went into the naturopath, he had this device, European manufactured,
Yes.
that showed you were lighting up like a Christmas tree, which was inflammation. What did you do to remove the inflammation? Because that's key, right?
That is key. And yeah, that's another great question. The thing is with inflammation is, and it's found out. I just came back from Toronto this last weekend. I was doing a talk there, and this guy, this holistic doctor, MD, he basically he was there. He reiterated that all disease, all chronic disease starts in an inflamed body. And if you are inflamed and they're putting more chemical or acidity on you, which is what happens with chemo and all this stuff, well, imagine, it's almost like suicidal. And so we did a 21-day reset, and then I went back to him and we did the same scan, and the difference, man, was wow. That really, I said, man, I have to let the world know all this stuff that was happening. I said, man, I was just thinking, man, I'm doing good with technology. We're helping people get more productive with our software or consulting. But man, I cannot stay quiet with all this stuff that I'm learning. I wasn't completely healed, let's say, quote unquote, but I was on my healing journey already. And so he showed me this. We waited a week. He actually asked me, because I was so thin, he says, continue to have your eggs in the morning. Don't worry about that. Snack, I mean, you need some protein, animal protein, depending on your metabolism of blood type. So have your eggs and continue to do the rest. So we meet again and do a second 21-day detox, same thing, and then I went for the final, let's say, visit, and we did a third scan. And man, I felt like I was just a baby. I was just born. That thing was so clear, and my energy was so amazing. And I just knew that all the cells that were lingering around there from the diet perspective were going away. But then I used other things. I started to visualize my body clean. I used the game of Pac-Man, and I imagined this creatures eating all the tumors in my body 3 times a day. And because of my faith, I would also take some deep breath at lunch in my office. I would close the door and go under my desk, and I would just visualize this holy light. For me, it was light blue coming through my head and just going through my body. It would take me about 10-15 minutes, and just eliminating any disease, anything that wasn't good for my body. And man, it was a wow, because you think you're doing good, and then all of a sudden, there's another craniotomy, and all of a sudden now I have this once in my gluteus. But and I kept thinking, all right, it's okay. I use the "it's okay" as a form, as a positive affirmation. It's okay. It's part of the process. It's okay. It's part of the process. We'll get them. And so I was lucky that they were able to operate on them. And they asked me, do you want us to do a catheter with radiation, like we did your gamma knife? In that one, I agreed, because it was not gonna hurt my body. It was just straight to the area where they removed these two things. But in terms of Quale Vita and the part of all nutrition of that, one of the things, because of this guy, he passed last year, Dr. Tonsky, but I decided to really go into an 18-month program with Andrea Nakajima, functional nutritionist in Los Angeles. And I did it online, but became a functional nutritionist as part of my arsenal to help my clients. Then on the physical, on the emotional part as well, and like that. One thing that is very important, And always start with the body. And because I have this, I guess, responsibility to let these people know how to eat and what to eat, and explain to them the connection between the gut through the vagus nerve and the brain, and how our nervous system, our system with the gut have this communication all the time. So, and how important it is, because if you disrupt that for whatever reason, not only the diet, you're in a hurry, like we were talking, you're stressed out, and you, with time, you chew like 6 times only. Instead, let's say you're having a piece of meat, you have to chew about 32 times before you swallow, because digestion. So we spend a couple weeks on digestion, and where does it start? It's in the mouth, the role of your saliva enzymes, and how you process the food with chewing, so the stomach can do the work that it's designed to do, not that you throw a bomb in there and now the stomach doesn't know what to do. It stores everything to fat. We don't have the proper nutrition. We get hungry like 3 hours later because we didn't get the nutrients we needed. And everything is a chain reaction. All of a sudden you're creating acidity in all your tissues little by little. Your stress creates acidity that disrupts and so everything is connected, and it's amazing.
So let's wind up the call here, Georges. I got one last question for you. What's next for you and Qualavita? Where do you see the future of gut health research and its impact on overall wellness going?
Yeah, some people ask me if I ever thought of retiring. I'll be 64 now in October. That's October 12th, and I say, what? Retiring? I have a purpose. I have a journey here to help people. From the nutritional part, it hasn't changed in terms of the amount of proteins and fats and carbs that you need to eat. That's pretty much been the same situation. But there's many there's a lot new information on the gut and brain connection, and how really that plays a key, is critical to our health. Because as many nutritionists say, and even doctors, all disease starts in the gut, but we create that if we don't know. So for Qualavita is being an advocate out there, and there's many people like Qualavita, just doing the same thing, happen to be survivors, and we just, I added a hypnotherapist. I see Qualavita as a brand of, that says, wow, these guys work on everybody's quality of life to live in wellness, have their best life, and find their purpose. That's how we see Qualavita going forward.
Beans, man. Well, Georges, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to show up and talk with me about your own journey. It's an amazing story, man. I appreciate you very much. So with that, I'll close down the show. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you guys got value, and we'll be back in touch soon. Bye for now. All right, folks. If you're itching to get in touch with Georges, you're in luck. You can drop him an email at coach.georges@qualivita.com. That's QUALEVITA.com, or visit his website at www.QUALEVITA.com. Whether you're looking for motivation or just a good chat about health, Georges is your guy.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Brain Gut Connection podcast. Stay connected with us directly through www.braingutconnect.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at BrainGutConnection and YouTube. If you would like to speak with us, please send us an email to dave@braingutconnect.com. And as always, thank you for listening. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Until next time, stay happy, healthy, and educated.